Hi, I'm Rob with Hayneedle. This is a short video on the assembly of the two-person canopy gazebo swing. The estimated time on this assembly is around 2 hours, and the tools you will need are 2 Allen wrenches and a regular wrench, both of which are included. Start by opening your box and removing your contents, then locate your instructions. Inside, you'll find a parts and hardware list. Take a brief inventory to make sure you have all the pieces needed for this assembly. Using 3 of our bolts labeled H1, we'll first be attaching our leg labeled A1 to our piece C. We're going to line up the holes on the back of A1 with the holes inside of our screen labeled C. Then insert 1 bolt into each hole and we'll use our wrench provided to fully tighten these bolts into place. Using 2 of our hardware assemblies labeled H6, we'll now be attaching our top piece F to the top of our leg labeled A1. So take your bolt with the washer on and insert from the outside through A, then into your piece F. Repeat with the second bolt. Then from the opposite side, we'll take first our flat washers, then our hex nut, and tighten into place. We'll use our wrench to fully tighten, and once fully tightened, we're then going to cap the end off with our caps. Once you have both of your bolts fully secured, you'll then repeat the first 2 steps by installing your leg labeled B1 on the opposite side. Once you have your side B installed, we're going to repeat all of these first steps to attach our remaining pieces A, B, C, and F. Using 2 of our bolts and washers labeled H2, we'll now be attaching our lower support shelf labeled D to our first A, B, and C structure. Line up the holes on D and B and insert your bolts. Once you have both in place, you'll then take your wrench and fully tighten. Once both are fully tightened, you'll repeat this step to connect the opposite end to your other piece B. Using 4 of our bolts labeled H1, we'll now be attaching our upper support shelf labeled E. We're going to line up the holes on each side, insert our bolts, and tighten into place. We'll use 2 bolts on each side, and once you have all 4 of your bolts in, you'll then tighten them down with your wrench and repeat this step with your second piece E on the opposite side. Using your bolt and washer labeled H2, take your upper support shelf G, and in the first hole at the top of the structure, we're going to insert our bolt and tighten into G. On the opposite side, using the same hardware, we'll repeat this step. Once in place, we can then fully tighten using our wrench. We'll then repeat this step for our 2 remaining support beams G in the middle and far hole on the top of our structure. Using our hardware labeled as H4, we'll now be attaching our center beam labeled as K. To do so, line up the holes on the sides and insert your bolts. From the opposite end, we're going to attach our hex nuts. Hand tighten and repeat this step for the opposite side. Using your wrench and Allen wrench, tighten all of your bolts into place. Take 3 of your seat rods labeled as N and slide them through the slits of our seat labeled as U. Using 3 of your hardware labeled H3, we'll now be attaching our arm labeled as I to the sides. So, start with the second from top hole. Line up the holes with your bar in and insert through. Once through, you'll first add your flat washer, then your hex nut, and you'll fully tighten your hex nut using your wrench. After you've fully tightened your hex nut into place, you'll cap it off with your plastic cap, and you'll repeat this step for your 2 remaining holes on your 2 remaining bars. Now take your second piece I and using the same hardware, attach on the opposite end. We'll now attach our top support beam M. Using the same hardware, insert your bolt through and into M. Add again your washer and hex nut and tighten down. Repeat this step for the opposite side. Using our bolt and nut labeled as H5, we'll now attach our piece J to the front hole of our swing. So insert your bolt from the inside, then through J1, then add your hex nut and fully tighten using your Allen wrench and your wrench. After you fully tighten J1, add your plastic cap over the top, and we'll move on to installing our piece J2. Using the same hardware, but this time on the top hole, we're going to insert our bolt, then insert through J2, add your hex nut, and again, fully tighten. We're going to repeat these steps on the opposite side with our remaining pieces J1 and 2. Now we'll attach our canopy. Make sure that the bolts sticking out the top are sticking through the holes in your canopy. Go around all of the edges and attach your Velcro around the top support beams. Now take your fixtures labeled as O, and in each corner where your bolts are sticking up, insert and tighten into place. Using your hook spring labeled as S, we're going to attach our pieces J1 and J2 together by inserting through. Then we're going to raise up our swing and hook onto the canopy. Now all that's left to do is add your cushions and enjoy your new gazebo swing.